All right, we're trying this again. It looks like I have some green lights down there, so maybe I actually do have sound. Uh, I am going to give myself a sound test. Remembered for a moment that I can actually remote into my own thing, so I should have a obnoxious bit of feedback if this is working correctly. I just need to go to my own thing here. I've checked this a lot. And click on the live. Oh, am I not going live yet? Well, it says I'm going live, so let's see. I should be on my own live stream, right? Well, it doesn't actually seem like I'm broadcasting. That is weird. That is obnoxious. Well, shame. All right, so where do I go to get the link for this thing? Is it do I have access to that feature? Do I have access to that feature? Manage. What's this? Do channel upload settings. All right. Well, it looks like I don't want to do that. Looks like I should be able to see myself, but I just can't. So let's try this. Yep, still not doing that. First of all, I have to delete the one that didn't have sound. Um, I would hate for that to happen. Oh yeah, that one seems like I'm live. So why is this one? Yes, I understand that that's deleting forever, and I'm deleting it forever. Okay, so why can't my other account find it? Minimize you. Still just seeing the thing. Huh? All right. Yeah, it just shows that. Did I not? Oh, did I not tell them in public? Oh, I said visibility is private. All right, yeah, public. Done. Okay, now let's try this again. This is live. Hey, I'm getting sound. Perfect. I'll turn this off. Go over here and oh, I should have actually gotten a link first. Yeah. So that was probably just me. Yeah, I should actually start talking more, and I should turn that off. All right. So let's be staring at my own face for a little while so I can annoy myself. So, as you might know, I've finished, well, you probably don't know, I finished chapter 63 of the book. I said in my last video that it's probably going to be wrapped up around late 70s, maybe 80. That's about the peak. I don't think it could possibly get past 80. I might have it wrapped up in the mid 70s. So uh, I am kind of in the home stretch of that, which means it is time to start my editing process. I've promised to put this out here. What I'm normally going to do, basically, I'm just opening the chapter I have. I hate how that looks. I'm going to where's the zoom on this thing? All right. So as you all know, I very much like to I very much like to. That's not gonna work. To remote into my home computer to do things. At the top still. Well, it looks like I'm just gonna do it this way. So rather than just remote all the way into this and try to play with it remotely, though, I'm just gonna open this up in Notepad for this part. I already have it. Oops. I'm going to fix the word wrap real quick and make it a larger font so I can read it easier because my ass is blind. So hopefully that's not too much of an inspiration, but if it is, great. Not that I don't want to inspire people, but nobody really wants to be blind. If you are, I hope we do an audiobook. Anyway, I've now got this on Notepad. I am staring at my own face. You can see I brought some friends, little stuffed animal things. The way I would normally do this, the way I did my first book is I kind of just checked out where the chapter started and where the chapter ended and then rewrote the whole thing because I felt like my skill had increased by the time I got to the end of it to where I was better off just rewriting everything. I don't think that's the case with this. I don't believe I need a rewrite of the whole book, which would be quite a lot. I think I'm just going to read this out loud and determine what I like and what I don't like. I'm going to start here at the beginning, chapter 1. Is there any way to mark this as this is the beginning of chapter 1? I really need to do these things. One of these days I'm going to learn how this works. All right. Oh, hey, somebody joined. All right. So I haven't started chapter 1 yet. I'm going to start reading it now. I'm going to get a couple of paragraphs in. I'm going to see what I like about it. It was the best part of the day, mid-morning, a time when the early hustle and bustle had quieted. Well, that's not what I said at all. It was the best part of the day, mid-morning, a time when the early hustle had quieted, leaving behind a cool, silent stillness. The air would be fragrant with the smells of breakfast just before they began to fade, just as the scents of bread and stew started to mingle. I think that's the first two sentences. I think I'm going to need to mark out those. They get a little bit too in the. It seems like it's too much for the first bit. Um, like maybe I should just pull that back a little bit. Uh, being able to sleep comfortably. Yeah, let me. I'll edit that in a minute. Being able to sleep comfortably into and perhaps through this part of the day was one of life's great joys. And today, I should have experienced that joy. But there were no smells. Nothing lingered from breakfast. Nothing was building for the evening meals. Instead, the silence was demolished by angry, demanding shrieks of alarm bells, tearing through the air, rendering the usual stillness with brash, desperate calls for aid. These bells once signaled my duty to rush out and manage emergencies as part of the militia. Now, having been dismissed for failing to meet some standard or regulation or some other reason I could not be bothered to remember, I didn't even have to think about them. Now, I could simply go about my day, leaving the urgent tasks to someone far better suited than myself. I could trim that down too, I think. Uh, so now, on the few occasions the bell rang, I ignored them. Most days I would drift off to a different part of. Okay, I can just ignore this whole paragraph. Just cut that out for now. Today was different. No, I'll leave that for now and I'll come back to that. So now, on the few occasions the bell rang, I ignored them. Most days I would just drift off to a different area of town, turning the bell's screams into a whisper. But today was different. Today I had a bed. I was not going to let some stupid alarm bells chase me out of my bed. My good friend Serge had asked me to watch his place while he handled an issue in the mines, and I could use his bed while he was gone. He even promised to pay me for my time, probably a few coppers, but he had been gone for a couple of days, so it might even be a whole silver. But most importantly, I would be back on the street when he got back, so I wanted to enjoy the bed as much as I could. All right. Woohoo! Well, thank you for watching or listening. I guess it's both. Uh, haven't I did one of these lives and I went a whole hour and left the microphone on the entire or the microphone off the entire time. Like there was no sound, so I eventually just deleted it. But it was a nice learning. Uh, let's see. Now I was reaching my limit though. I had slept as much as I could and had been laying awake since the first alarm bells rang. I might have to fix that. Like he wasn't reaching his limit, so I need to mark that out. Because if he was reaching his limit on how much he could sleep, it wouldn't bother him that he wasn't able to go back to sleep. I'll come back to that to fix. Uh, and then, even though had slept so long, I physically could not sleep anymore. Getting up was exhausting. I managed to do it. Managed to do it with much effort and dragged myself to the polished tin Serge had strapped to his wall. I looked better than I did a few days ago when I first showed up here to start my watch. My skin was so pale it was almost blue, not the gray that it was now. The bags were not so thick under my eyes. I guess I need to change some of the text. That's a little bit confusing. My skin was so pale it looked almost blue, not the gray it was now. The bags were not so thick under my eyes. Yeah, that need to change that to the bags had been thicker under my eyes. The bruise on my cheek had gone down. My horns and hair had a bit more luster to them. The deep scar on my face was less pronounced and less angry looking. I looked good, except my normally pale green eyes were glowing red. I had never seen them do that myself, although I had been told a few times that when I was threatened, my eyes had a tendency to shift hues, but there was nothing here to threaten me. Perhaps it was something else. I should go find an odd job or something. I'd been out of dust for days now, and I would start to get the shakes if I did not have any. I was mostly out of mist. I had used the last of my fungus, and used the last of my fungus last night, and the flowers I had found recently were worthless. I knew I had promised Serge, but he would have to understand that this was taking too long. The mine was just a couple hours away, and if he hurried, he should have been back a long time ago. Should have been back a long time ago, even if he did not hurry. He'd better pay a full silver, now that I thought about it. He owed me 1 silver. Now that that was settled, I could get started and find some coin or something. There's not a lot of things I owned. One of the few was my robe. It was currently in a heap on the floor, and it stank like a homeless drunk lived in it. Putting it on was always unpleasant, and it took a while to get used to the smell before I could go about my day. I could have washed it, but when it did not stink, the guards would sometimes try to search me and see if I had any illegal drugs, money, or anything else they could take, knowing that I would not protest too much. When I stank like this, they mostly left me alone. My fingers rummaged through the folds of the robe, hunting more by their own instincts than by any direction from the rest of me. A tiny little pinner of mist found its way between my fingers. It was rolled nice and tight, with a practiced twist at the end, awaiting fire. While my gray skin and horns were the most obvious indication of my demon heritage, it was not the only indication. I was able to use shadows and flame to do little tricks. My magic sparked as it touched my lips, and I took a drag, meaning melting the stress away just for a minute. And with that, I finally exited the room. Yeah, the thick might be the wrong word too. I might rewrite that as heavy. The bags were no longer as heavy as they were. It's just like when you haven't had enough sleep, you get the bags under your eyes. And Ratt is a little older, not quite as old as I am, but he's a little older, so that they get pronounced. All right. The outside world was bright and annoying, dragging me back to my usual sluggish pace as I felt the sun's glare beating down on me. Fortunately, my emergence seems to silence the bell, granting me a brief respite from the incessant noise. I trudged across uneven cobbstones, towards the main square where the bell had been ringing, hoping to find some work or at the very least some water from the well. The square was unusually quiet. The first thing I heard as I arrived was Jack's obnoxious voice. I could not make out the words and didn't particularly want to. I was just relieved he was not talking to me. Still, almost involuntarily, I glanced over at him. He was flanked by his usual lackeys, Reggie and Portis, who never strayed too far from Jack, just in case his boots needed licking. The trio was surveying what looked like an assembled mob of mostly housewives, children, and elderly people, all wielding rather poorly crafted spears. After an initial judgment, I remembered that assembling spears for the militia was one way I made some coin from time to time. It was easy work that paid a few coppers, and being high made it a breeze to rush through. On second thought, those spears looked adequate. Whoever put them together had done a fine job. They were not supposed to be for drills, though. They were just meant to earn some extra ale money and pass the time. Jack would look like an idiot if you were trying to do drills with him. And someone really needed to point that out to him. Even though I reeked so badly that I could almost see the stench drip off my nose, or see the stench drip off my robe, I approached Jack unnoticed. He seemed so wrapped up in his speech that he was oblivious to everything else. As I lightly tapped his shoulder, he twisted away from my non-existent grip using a practiced move from years of training. He pulled his polished longsword out of his hilt, though he held it less like he intended to strike and more like he wished he could hide behind it. Fucking rat, you ain't dead? He croaked out. Now, I do intend to change all the fucking words to, I'm going to write my own curse words. Just because I think that'll translate better. His eyes were bloodshot with heavy bags under them. His hair was greasier than usual, and his breath stank like he had been drowning bitter tea for hours. Been drowning bitter tea. Okay. But it was Jack. Jack was not particularly kind on his best day, and today was not his best day. Was I supposed to be? I asked, surprised by how confused and disinterested I sounded. As I stiffened for an attack I was sure was coming, he relaxed and put his sword back in his hilt. Why did it take you so long to get here? Why didn't you join up with the rest of the militia to go to the mine? I thought you finally overdosed or pissed off the wrong person or were in some shallow grave or something. He glanced disapprovingly at the pinner I was still smoking. I had forgotten it was still there. I reached up to take it out of my mouth. I failed. Instead, I took a deep drag, leaving a slightly shorter pinner still hanging off my lip. I'm not in the militia, I explained. You kicked me out. Jack let out a resigned sigh. We've been over this. You're still in the militia. Everyone is in the militia. You're not in the guard. Great. What's the militia pay? You haven't given me my wages since you kicked me out. The militia doesn't pay. He cut himself short and looked back at the people assembled. I followed his gaze. The people that had gathered did not look like a militia. Other than the bootlicker twins, no one had armor. The spears they were holding looked like they were made by a drunk loser who hated doing it. Militia was supposed to have some kind of uniform, armor, look intimidating. This looked like a bunch of scared women and children. My stomach growled and my attention was taken by the market stalls. The normally bustling food stalls were empty. Nothing was being sold. Nothing was being cooked. Normally, even on my worst days, I could take some of the weight off my mind by basking in the smell of things roasting and imagining better times ahead. But there was just nothing now. No vendors, no food, no smells, nothing. I craved one of Marybeth's meat pies. I knew they were rat and squirrel, but they were cheap and pretty tasty. Something about them being unavailable made them even more appealing than usual. Glancing over at me, a little terrified, was Marybeth. She was a middle-aged woman, trembling with a spear tightly gripped in her hand. I guess she was militia or whatever. I wondered if that was why she was not cooking pies, because she had guard money now. Hopefully, some of those normal guards would show up so she could go back to making pies. When will the guards be back, Jack? I asked. They're dead, Ratt. Everyone is dead, Jack replied with a kind of flabbergasted sigh. Jack paused, waiting for something. I was also waiting. Long moments passed before one of us spoke. They died in the mines, trying to fix that zombie problem. Get in the line and get ready to do some drills, Jack said, finally breaking the stalemate. Right, they're working on a zombie problem. Should not be long then. Zombies were easy to kill, especially if you took the whole militia to do it. Oh, if that's done, are they on their way back now? Are you high again? You know what? Never mind. I don't have time to play with you. Go do whatever you want, but stop wasting our time. Jack looked annoyed with me again. He turned his back and walked to the group. I was not high, although I very much wanted to be, but I was not. Jack was not going to answer questions. And he looked like he had other things to do. A thought occurred to me. They wanted answers. If I could find them, I might get money out of it. And if I got money, I could use money to get high. Today was a very upsetting day, and getting high would take so much pressure off my shoulders. So, if I wanted money, I was going to need answers. And with everyone here being completely fed up with me, If I wanted the answers, I was going to have to go somewhere else. All right, that is the chapter. I'm going to kill that and start working on the editing process, like actually typing out where I marked things off and fixing it up. And once that's done, I might do a fresh recording that's just going to be the chapter. I'm probably not going to do this style of live anymore, but I just want to do the first, this is how I edit. Take care.